I've put this off for long enough. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. You guys are overhyping this. Like bad, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say it's like a bad movie, but for the majority of it, I had like a really tough time deciding whether or not I liked it, which, I mean, that's not really a good sign, you know? Now, I like Guardians a lot. Like the first movie, I've watched more times than probably any Marvel movie. I like it a lot. That being said, the second one's not great, and honestly, including Infinity War, they've just kind of treated Star-Lord like crap. And Star-Lord is like my favorite in the MCU. Like he's my guy, and he's just kind of gotten treated like crap for like years now. James Gunn has said that the whole punching Thanos thing, he wouldn't have had him do that. And Gamora doesn't die in the comics, so I don't know why they did that, and it's kind of starting to make me hate Infinity War, to be honest. Because while James Gunn set up Infinity War perfectly with Adam Warlock being like somewhat introduced, they didn't use it at all, and what they set James Gunn up with for Guardians 3 is ass. Like this whole thing with Gamora being dead, and in the movie, I couldn't help but just be sad the whole time about everything that was going on with Quill and Gamora. And it's like none of that needed to happen. His entire arc in the first movie is his love story with Gamora. So killing her off just kind of defeats the entire purpose of like his story. Anyway, movie starts off with Quill being like drunk. Like I feel like they were trying to play it off as he's an alcoholic, but it never comes back at all through the entire movie. He starts off super drunk, and then it's gone. I mean, I guess it's to show that he's sad, but what do you expect? And this is also the first time we've really seen him since Gamora died, because everything else was just them joking with him at Endgame and Thor thinking it's funny and them just leaving immediately, which was also a letdown. I'm going to get some of the good stuff out of the way first, because you can tell when I decide how I feel about a movie, that's just kind of how I talk about it the whole time. But what I really like, what I wish more Marvel movies would do, is not everything needs to be this like catastrophic world-ending blowing up the universe crap. Just, you know, it could just be a bad guy, which this is just a bad guy, even though he literally does blow up an entire world in this. So yeah. Also, the Rocket story is good. It's a good story. I would rather just have that be the movie, as most people say, and then have another Guardians movie that's their kind of finale. That being said, the Rocket story is cut in so abruptly that it's kind of hard to, like, for me at least, to get actually invested. Like, I would be very invested in Quill and Gamora and like how awful she is to him, which it's just sad to watch. I was sad for like a whole day after watching it. So I'd be invested in that, and it would just cut to Rocket, and I go, wait, I'm invested in the other thing, and it just kind of, it doesn't give you a chance to care about either of the stories, honestly. Now, I noticed in the opening credits that Tyler Bates didn't do the music, and I was worried immediately, and for good reason, because like if you look at the first movie, the whole climax, the very end of the movie when they defeat the bad guy, the music is absurdly good, and there's like a theme, you know, there's like a Guardians theme song that's worked into that. Whereas this one, I was waiting the whole time for it to play, and it just plays at a point where Rocket is like flying around blowing things up, and it's like, that's not epic. I'll get to the music later. What's strange about this is it actually, like, if you know me, you know I hate Nebula, but I actually I thought Nebula was kind of enjoyable in this. I actually thought Mantis was the worst, which is strange because a lot of people thought she was okay in this, but I don't know if it's just the actress, but I did not think Mantis was very good. Anyway, Rocket gets this injury because Adam Warlock showed up and attacked them. And I mean, if you've seen it, you know the plot. They have to do all this to like save his life, bypass some, MacGuffin, whatever. I mean, it's really nice, like how much Quill cares about Rocket, and the whole thing with Rocket saying that he's his best friend and the Drax arguing. It's cool. Like the whole kind of theme in the movie is camaraderie, and that's nice. But honestly, I mean, it's really not a very funny movie. A lot of people complain about the yelling, but that didn't bug me. What bugs me is that it's not funny, but they interrupt like any moment with like feeling with like jokes, or just, Quill's trying to level with Gamora and they're all just making fun of him, kind of. Again, it's just sad, like can you imagine going through that? It's sad. So I'm not going to dive too deep into the plot. I will also say it's really cool that Star-Lord's kind of finally like badass in all the fight scenes. The fight choreography for him is by far the best it's ever been. And he's never had a chance to do cool stuff, and he finally is able to be like a badass in this movie. But that leads into one of my biggest issues with this, which James Gunn has addressed. But if I asked you to describe Spider-Man, you would describe his costume. If I asked you to describe Iron Man, you would describe the Iron Man suit. If I asked you to describe Star-Lord, you'd say he has the helmet and the rocket boots and a bunch of gadgets and gizmos. How could you possibly, in order to contrive this almost death scene, which honestly somebody should have died in this, but nobody does, in order to make that happen, he just doesn't have them. And James Gunn's reasoning is like fan fiction reasoning bad, where it's just like, oh, he left them in his drawer because he was in a hurry, and he doesn't have the rocket boots because Rocket made these jetpacks that are better. But he has neither. So like, that's just unfathomable to me. How you wouldn't see Spider-Man without the web slingers, you wouldn't see Iron Man without his suit. Isn't the whole Iron Man 3 plot him not having a suit and trying to get one? I've only seen it once, but isn't that like the plot? And in this, it's like he just doesn't have any of it. That when I'm going into the movie, I said all I want is for him to have the helmet on, because he hasn't had it in any of the trailers, and he never has it on. Also, this movie has the first F-bomb in the Marvel universe, and it is so forced. It's not really like that funny, and it just kind of happens at a time where you wouldn't really expect it. It's not necessary. Anyway, through most of the movie, I was really torn on how to feel about it. It would get to points where I was like, no, this might be good. And then I kept looking at the time, not because I was bored, but just in hopes of like seeing if there was time to have a good plot still. Because the plot is just like, it's just them saving Rocket, which that's fine, but that's almost like a I Am Groot episode or something in my mind. It's not the whole movie. And the thing is, I know it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, but it starts with Quill. Like he is the main character of the Guardians. That's just how it is. And so the fact that the plot just kind of skims over all the trauma he's been through is kind of nuts. Also, going back to the mask and the rocket boots, the whole thing with him like jumping out the window like to his death without a plan, that wouldn't be a argument, they argue about it a lot. That wouldn't be a conversation had he just had the things that make him him. How do you leave that out? Anyway, the whole theme of the movie is camaraderie, and when he almost dies because he's missing his things, they all sit there and hug. It's kind of strange, but whatever. I mean, like, sure. And then out of nowhere, I swear to God, it's out of nowhere. People are going to argue with me, but I don't care. He's just like, hey, everybody, I want to talk to you. I'm going to leave now. the whole thing is camaraderie. That was like the whole point of the movie, at least in my perspective. And then at the end, he's just like, hey, I'm gonna leave. And then Mantis is like, oh yeah, me too. And this is Drax's last movie, but he's just there. There's no like exit for him. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, we get to the end of the movie, and now is where I'm going to talk about the soundtrack, because I like 70s and 80s music, and the music in Guardians always had a couple good ones thrown in, like ones that I would listen to before seeing the movie. This one is like 90s, and it's all like 90s. The big fight scene, which is really cool, it's done to the Beastie Boys, and I just don't like the Beastie Boys. I understand if you like the Beastie Boys, that is fine, but I can't stand the Beastie Boys. So like that whole sequence, I couldn't fully enjoy it because damn Beastie Boys. So then we get to the very end. Again, I'm still very torn, and they played that fucking Florence and the Machine song. I hate that song so much. I hated that song since the first time I heard it. And that is the big finale song. When that song played was what teetered the movie into bad for me. I was torn to the very end, and that song is what pushed me over, because I just hate that song. And then you have Drax dancing, which it's a character trait of his not to dance. That is his thing. It's not like oh look, he's finally opened up. It's like, no, that's the thing, is he doesn't dance. And then Groot talks. Why? And Florence and the Machine plays. Oh my god, it's just everything that sucks all together at once. Yeah, I think this is definitely my least favorite Guardians movie. I'm not going to sit here and say that it is bad. I know that I've bashed it, but I'm not going to say that it's like objectively bad. You can like it if you want, but it's not like the greatest thing. It's not like, oh, the best thing since No Way Home, and No Way Home is not even that great to begin with. One day I'll talk about that. But yeah, I think it is just below meh, and it made me sad for a whole day. Anyway, did you see it? I saw it. It's overrated.